ventured into organizing this international seminar on middle classes. Who are the middle classes? The middle class has been typically perceived to be educated section of urban society, employed or in seeking white-collar jobs. This seminar wishes to bring together diverse lines of arguments provided by the scholarly domain concerning this area. Thank you.
Too much emphasis may have been put on roti kapra makan for the poor than on bijli sarak pani. Bijli sarak pani are public goods that everyone needs, and while sarak cannot be bought by the rich as a private good, it is possible to have private arrangements for the supply of the other two. I don't know in Baroda, but in parts of Delhi, water is a private good. You buy tankers. After 6 decades of planning, bijli and pani are available in sufficient quantity only to the rich through generators. The rich can buy them at a considerably higher private and social cost as private goods. Investing in the production of these public goods will strengthen the stability of the existing middle class households and help the poor at the margin of poverty to join the middle class. The middle class can save, invest and provide entrepreneurship, but it cannot build power plants or transmission lines or roads or water supply systems on its own. It needs the government for that. The lack of emphasis on development of infrastructure and government policies has seriously hampered the growth of the Indian middle class. The emphasis on trying to set up a wide-ranging welfare state before meeting the basic provision of essential public goods has been a bit premature in India. This has impeded an even more robust growth of the Indian middle class.
Because of the variations within the middle class in India, because there are so many differences when you look at the top layers of the middle class and the lower layers of the middle class, is that when there becomes a kind of uneasy tension between ideology on the one hand and the interest of the middle class on the other hand. In terms of ideology, in terms of the sort of the public sense that the middle classes are an embodiment of liberalizing India, in terms of consumption, in terms of consumerism, in terms of the sort of desire for this new economy, that may actually be at odds with the interests of large groups of the middle classes, right? So large segments of the middle classes may not in fact be benefiting from privatization because of this historical relationship between the state and middle class development, because historically in India, one of the major factors which led to the growth and expansion of the middle class was government support, resources poured into things like higher education. So what that means then is that there may be a tension between ideology and interest where you have this kind of image that the middle classes are supposedly benefiting from liberalization, when in fact segments of the middle class may not actually have their interests served by some policies of liberalization, right? So there may be a tension that needs to be unpacked when we're trying to sort of make claims about what the middle class wants or what serves the interests of the middle class.
This middle class, the old middle class and the new middle class, they continue to inherit their caste, community and gender-based privileges. In fact, Nehru is saying that my politics, I've quoted Nehru, he says, my politics has been that of my class, the middle class. Indeed, all local politics then and to a great extent even now were those of the middle classes. So, jump. So this middle class is not, it has not expanded after 91. It has expanded after the affirmative policy, as a result of affirmative policies.
Therefore, I define conceptually and logically that old middle class and new middle class. Middle class is a negative kind of a class, does not own means of production or capital and does not produce surplus value. On the other hand, just opposite to it, the old middle class. In fact, the new middle class, for me, is a class of various occupations, professional groups, all kinds of people who have educationally acquired technical competence.
In this paper, the categorization of the Bengali middle class in the colonial period will be as a group of educated people who first, through the means of reforms and subsequent revival, led the cultural activism in the colonized society, In this era of new cultural consciousness, women's issue got a broader spectrum.
You know, the Christians have got the benefit of the fact that Christianity brought education to this country, definitely in urban areas, definitely for the elite of India, but also for the poor and marginalized. Among the total population, you would have of middle class in India, you would have a very significant number of Christians too. And most of them would belong maybe to the semi-urban and the urban areas of India. What are the characteristics of this middle-class Indian Christian? They have a good educational background, a college degree, many of them postgraduate, a professional degree and so on. They are fairly articulate. There's plenty of challenges for the Indian Christian. The first is the pressure to keep up with a highly competitive society.
Views. Muslim the middle class is unusual in that it consists primarily of Bohras and Khojas. Now these two communities they are very well-to-do. They do constitute what you may call the Jews of India among Muslims. People like the Azim Premji or Khorakiwala, they all belong to this group, but they also constitute another class of liberal progressive thinkers. If you consider Jinnah as a progressive thinker, at one time he belonged to this group, Asghar Ali, an engineer. So there is but the unusual thing is that here is a community which broke off, which is looked upon as heretics by other Muslims.
If we study the film, it also obliterates the possibility of having a broader canvas, which could be similar to the rainbow coalition or an alliance, which gives due representation to the working class and the marginalized groups of the countryside. While it's termed as a nationalist film, highlighting the relevance of a generation that has awakened, but it really doesn't chart out a course which could draw the middle class out of its comfort zone. That's where the problem is. And here we talk about complete marginalization and minoritization of various groups, rather majority of groups, through such display of characters in popular culture.
And I want to point to a major issue on which we want to reflect is that how they look at caste issue as a middle class, how they address, and also keep in mind the state also. If particular middle class and particular religion belong to a particular state, how they respond to the issue of caste. Because you can find on the issue of caste clear division. If you are in Gujarat state is Harijan, if you are in Maharashtra is Dalit. If you are in South India, it's quite different way of looking at the caste system. So one is caste, second is communalism, third is liberalization and gender. And I really want to understand, if somebody can throw lights or study or article available with regards to this, how middle class look at this particular thing and identify them, they belong to which state. You are referring to which generation? Is it the younger generation or second generation or the first generation you are referring inside the house? And also look at the...
That is, today the criteria to define the middle class has altogether been shifted to a quality life and development. It consists all the things like education, economic things, social upliftment as well, and the participation in the social political processes through expression and direct communication. So expression and direct communication and a participatory nature has arisen at the part of middle class. That is a phenomenon, that is a new thing which has been given by social media.
And therefore, I would like to look at middle class as a social category which has evolved through an internal layering. And with time, this category has witnessed an intra-transformation from a singular middle class at the time of independence to the present day lower middle class, middle class and the upper middle class. Class is now trifurcated, according to me and to use Mr. Mishra's terms, the walkers or the lower middle class, the climbers, the middle class, the achievers, that is the upper middle class. And this movement, the vertical climb, the dynamism can be articulated as follows. The movement from one subsector to another causes a discontinuity with the lifestyles of the previous sector as one weaves his way into the new sector, thereby continues the mindset of the sector that you are entering.
The term middle class, first deployed in the context of European history, not only comprised the elements of the industrial bourgeoisie, but included those who supported the changes that came with modernity and capitalism, such as writers, novelists, and intellectuals. Colonial rulers did not deploy the term as they were not keen to endorse the presence of a group with prospects of having a progressive role. There is no knowledge of who used the term first. Aurobindo Ghosh used it in 1893. Since then, it gained wide currency, agreeing with Dufresne that the new middle class, a group of journalists, barristers, doctors, officials, graduates, and traders, did not represent the people of India.
All the three papers raise the question of old and new, then and now, which means that you have to deal with the time dynamic, which means that you have to bring in history. Now, how far do we go back in time? I find that Madhuri goes only up to 1850 back, not before. And the others, she has gone even to much earlier past. All the three papers raise one very important point, namely that social science in general, whether it is economics, sociology or politics, we have not yet fully understood the nature of the social structure of pre-modern urban society in India.
Now, there is a misnomer that all elderly are dependent. No, this is not true. There are a large number of elderly, 60 plus, and they are working, and 60% of the male elderly are working. Where the lower class having the income security problem, the middle class having social problems, so relational problems, and lot of tension we see. So, and only 8% of the elderly are getting some sort of pension. That one has to look at that elderly are a great source of strength, and their wisdom, their knowledge, and their experiences. This how to harvest. This is a great opportunity. So aging unfolds both opportunity and challenges. Now opportunities are there, how one can network them, how to utilize them, their experiences, and challenges are there, that how to support them. Supporting the lower class, lower and middle class elderly.
Even the question is this, that in Gujarat, there are three zones. Those who have missed it, I may mention. Three zones: Eastern Tribal Belt, Central Plain Belt, and Western Coastal Belt. By 1980, 70% of the total industrial investment was in this Golden Corridor, Railroad Corridor. All research institutes were in this corridor. 75% of the universities were in this corridor. 70% irrigation was in this corridor. So all development inputs were pumped into this corridor, which gave rise to this. So this is consequence of this. That was one question which I could not answer was, will this caste category vanish? Your ascribed status do not vanish. It may become the situation that at certain point of time it may become less important. At certain other point of time it may take a different shape. Caste may take a marriage endogamy shape in one set of time, where in another context it may become a social pressure group. In third context it may become a power group. So, but caste remains.
Because the economy is controlled and commanded by the metropolitan city. And this metropolitan, what we are talking about, India, middle class, only lives in few selected cities, and that is 53 metropolitan cities and 6 what we call it mega cities, where the commanding position of Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Bangalore, Hyderabad, 8 command. So this is very important. Where entire urban population, only 40% people live there.
The bourgeoisification or the expansion of the middle class and its increasing salience have been generating contradictory trends in India. Bourgeoisification, they can generate both cohesive as well as disruptive trends, and they come together. Both these trends sometimes get merged and come together. These bourgeoisification can contribute to political and social stability, but it will also deepen caste strife and also invoke gender antagonisms towards minorities and so on and so forth. The middle class has access to soft power, which implies that by soft power is something which is very, very strong and very enduring. That is the power of persuasion, the power of getting your actions, influencing others, the power of getting your actions legitimized. Of course, Ramsey calls it hegemonization, right? When your ideas, are so powerful that people think that there is no alternative. And the middle class generally have that kind of soft power. And the moment I talk about soft power like this, then naturally they ought to be in a higher status.
जो भी हो तुम खुदा की कसम